Yes, well, my name is Yuriko Yokota. I was born April the 4th, 1915. I was born in San Francisco.
My name's Gilbert Sugihara. I was born October 21st, 1931 in Oakland, California.
It started at, well, when I was an infant, I guess, because they bought it in, you know, the Issei's could not own land, so they bought it in my name. So I was older, so they bought it in my name.
Did he work in a nursery?
Well, you know, they said that everybody, all the nursery people, work for the domotos. And domotos are the ones who really started it earlier, so they taught everybody else. They worked there and they learned how to do it. Well, they started off by growing sweet peas and outdoor plants, and then they branched off into carnations. And from carnations, well, roses were much more expensive, you know, the plants, so it was harder. But later on, they were able to buy rose plants and gradually raise roses, which were easier in one way because they didn't have to transplant like every year in carnations.
Gee, when we were kids, we just played, you know, and I didn't get involved in the nursery until after the war.
Because you had brothers.
Yeah, my brothers were older, and they were the ones doing the work, and
Parents too, huh?
yeah, the parents.
My mother sure worked hard.
I think we only had one employee.
Yeah, one employee.
One.
So it was your parents and one employee that basically
Mm-hmm.
ran that whole nursery?
Yes.
Wow, that's very impressive. That is a lot of hours.
Oh yes, it was all day, every day of the year thing. Well, she did everything. I remember she even worked the ground to plant the roses or whatever, you know, my mother. I still remember.
So you had a house.
On the nursery.
Yeah. And did you know, did your parents build that house, or do you know anything about the house?
Oh yes, it started off small, gradually got better, bigger, the house.
So add on here, add on there.
And I remember there was a creek that went right in the middle of our land. And one time it flooded the house. I remember that, but I don't remember exactly. I remember hearing about it, you know. So they've had a lot of hard times.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, the nursery was completely rebuilt after the war.
Oh, I see.
When my parents, my brothers, the greenhouses had collapsed, you know, during the war, and it had to be completely rebuilt.
So when internment happened, did your parents own the land, and so did they have somebody watch them?
Yes, we had a very good neighbor. The Abies watched all the nurseries, all three nurseries. They had a nursery across the street, and
So you were lucky to come back.
we were very lucky.
It just rebuilt.
Had someone like that to watch over.
How did
After the war was, I was in Idaho. My husband was farming, and then my sister, she had a place in San Leandro. She said, the next door neighbor is, how about you sell the land? My husband sent the money, and without looking at the nursery, he just, you know, sent them the money, and so they bought it for us, so we came. That's how we started.
Well, what happened was in 1985, my wife got really sick, and so I kind of stepped back from the nursery, and Glenn started running it. And he didn't run it the old way, he kind of ran it his way. And we noticed that the other growers were changing plants like every 4 years, which was a practice, the old practice. we would take a rose plant, and every 4 years we would put in new plants. But what he did was he didn't do that, and so he didn't have all that expense of going through all that, you know, of changing the plant, buying the plant, changing it, and waiting for it to start producing again. And so he didn't put that much money back into the business, but was still able to operate. And so at the end, when it was time to close, the only thing that he was in debt for was his salary, and he had no other obligations, and he didn't have to put in any fresh money or anything. So it was a blessing that he took over instead of my doing it, because I would have done it the old way.
Well, then the city put an eminent domain on my land. You know, that was really scary to think about it. That's when I asked my son-in-law in Hawaii. Oh, he says, I'm going to go to help. So I appreciated his coming to help, you know, to fight it.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, I just got so disgusted. I said, you know, when the war broke out, I lost everything. And then I said, am I going to lose it again? You know, the people started to clap. They couldn't stop clapping. They clapped and clapped and clapped. And I wanted to say some more, but they wouldn't let me say it. That's when they said, no more. They shut the eminent domain.
So it worked.
So I was able to sell my land
Oh, good.
at a really good price. Uh-huh. I thought they did a good job, really, to think that, you know, most of them, to start off with, they didn't know English and all that, and still they went into business. Yeah. And they had all kinds of rocks thrown in front of their path.
What did they have?
Rocks thrown in front of their path. You know what I mean? All these obstacles they had to fight.
Yeah. And yet they somehow
Yeah, they did it. Uh-huh.
through a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work. Would you say, huh, Gilbert?
It was a lot of hard work. Well, a lot of what I have is because of the nursery.
A lot of what?
A lot of what I have now.
It's because of the nursery.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.